About time. I was hoping they'd figure it out before morning. Reckon it's good news? Human asked, looking down at Lizra. I tried being persuasive. We'll see how far that got you, she replied, standing up to leave. Want a ride? Human asked, reaching his arm down in front of her. Oh yes, how chivalrous, thank you. The captain chuckled, stepping onto his hand and then up to his shoulder. The three opened the door, and the brunt assigned to guard duty was in the exact same position as before. You shall not pass. I am all that stands between you and the complete destruction of— We are going to pass, thank you, Prior. You're dismissed for the evening. No, I shall accompany him wherever he may attempt to go. To the ends of the galaxy and beyond, this coveted duty I shall fulfill. The guard growled, blocking the doorway. He sounds a lot like I used to. You have to respect that loyalty. Let's go then, Human said, stepping around him and into the corridor. I do not answer to the enemy. Where shall we escort the prisoner, ma'am? He asked, looking up to Lizra on Human's shoulder. Certainly not to the end of the galaxy or beyond. Just down the hall, Prior. You can follow behind. She sighed. They navigated the windowless labyrinth that was the OF base and arrived back at the conference room. The officers were seated as before at the other end of the table, but looked obviously uncomfortable when they saw Lizra perched atop the Human. She jumped down and into the seat where she was previously, and Human sat himself at the head once more, taking special care not to break the seat. The commander stood up while the remaining officers stayed seated. He cleared his throat once and began, The board has reviewed the information that you, Captain Lizra, and your personal computer have provided. They were most concerned with the documentation you gave on how the human ships reached the Illyrian system. If they were truly destroyed like you claimed, then in your opinion, what is the likelihood that they are able to make a return to this galaxy? It is possible. However, statistically it is 0. It should not be a problem for you, Tic-Tac replied. How could that be? If there is a chance they could return, then wouldn't it put us all in danger? The commander countered. There's absolutely no way they're coming back. You don't understand how their systems worked. Human was getting anxious just at the discussion of his species. If for some reason they decided to send others, they would have done so a long time ago. They don't usually send recovery missions when a ship goes dark. Even if they did come back, they wouldn't pose a galaxy-level threat. They're stuck in a single system and can't project their power outside of it. Care to elaborate on that, computer? Legate Terene asked. I am going to assume you read what I sent you, but were unable to grasp it in its entirety. I'll word it differently this time. The human species has never been able to develop faster than light travel, but only because they had no particular need for it. How many planets are in a galaxy? Hundreds of billions, trillions. And by the time you narrow down your options for ones that are habitable, you're left with only a handful of options in comparison to what you started with. They decided on a more logistical approach to this problem, a way to access an alternate version of their own planet, eliminating the need for long-distance space travel altogether. Your scientists are already quite well versed in the theory of a multiverse, but it is not a theory. Humanity possessed one planet that has an extremely high chance for harboring life and access to infinite versions of it. Using this approach, they can open a gateway to another planet in minutes, strip it of its resources over the course of a few months, and move on to the next. But no system is without its flaws. The room was silent, listening intently as the computer explained the process to them. It is entirely random. They cannot pick and choose which version they will end up in. It is a completely unpredictable process for finding a new reality. Once the access point is made, they get one selection out of the infinite number of possibilities. But once they have the coordinates for that reality, they can reliably open the same gateway and replicate it with ease. The process of opening a gate takes milliseconds and can be closed just as quickly. But because the exact circumstances for life are so rare, nearly every single gate opened leads to a barren rock. Many of the uninhabited ones were utilized for resource harvesting and quickly abandoned. Before we left, out of 500 years of continuous operation and millions of gates, they were able to discover only 197 planets that supported life, your homeworld being one of these, so we technically originate from the same world as you. The commander contemplated for a moment, keeping his stoic complexion as he spoke again. This was not something any of us could have foreseen, but it only raises even more questions for us, and we do not believe you would have the answers to those. The commander paused, debating whether or not to reveal that there might still be a surviving contingent of humans in their galaxy. And what could potentially happen if any of the humans survived after the initial invasion on our homeworld? They didn't, I made sure of that, Human replied, striking the thought down. But if they did, he countered, would they have any way of reaching the rest of your species? Tic-Tac responded before Human could. The gateways are closed upon the loss of communication with the forces on the other side. It takes quite a while for a recovery mission to be executed and rarely happens. The main priority of the humans is keeping their main system safe. If something is strong enough to destroy one of its vessels, then it is deemed too dangerous to keep the gate open. If somehow they did manage to survive this long, enough time has passed that they would be on their own and need to reopen a gateway from this side to establish contact. I'm done talking what-ifs. They're gone, dead, end of story. It's about time we talked about why I'm still here. You said this mystery board has come to a conclusion. What is it? Am I free to go now or not? Human growled, getting more and more agitated as the conversation progressed. All the information we have covered today was in the files your computer sent us as part of our arrangement. We just wanted confirmation from the both of you, the commander started. Based on your willingness to comply with our demands, openness to share critical information with us, and the character testimony provided by Captain Lizra, the board has decided that they cannot, in good conscience, execute someone who may have been responsible for stopping a threat that could have endangered countless other worlds. With that in mind, they have decided to allow you limited freedom with certain stipulations. He finished. And what might those be? Human asked with a clear note of disdain in his words. We are in quite a complicated situation regarding you. On one paw, you have both saved our species from complete annihilation, each in your own ways. Yet on the other, if we are wrong about you, and you still harbor intentions to do the harm, then everyone on Elurus and the outer worlds is at risk. You've had access to some of our most vital networks and the opportunity to survey and catalog our most heavily fortified system. With these risks in mind, we would release you on the condition that you have a tracker implemented on you at all times, a limited release to only OAV-occupied systems, you relinquish all weapons in your possession, and a network tracker encrypted into your computer so we can monitor it when it accesses any networks. Fine, I have no problems with that if that's what it takes to get you off my ass. My only intention is to go out on my own and live my own life for a change. I was not finished. In addition, a complete memory wipe of your computer. We cannot have the information that it carries falling into our enemy's possession at any point in the future. Agree to these terms and you'll be free to go. No, I'm sorry. I don't think you grasp just how generous the board has been with these demands. Many wanted it to end up far worse for you. This was the only compromise that they were able to agree upon. It is not my place to negotiate any further. These are the stipulations, and you either accept them or we cannot let you leave. I'm not resetting him. Why can't we just remove the time here in the facility? That would solve these issues, right? Human argued. No, the information regarding your species, its weapon capabilities, and its origins are too great of a risk to fall into the hands of the core. This is not something that is negotiable. I believe my opinion should be considered in this matter, since it is my own consciousness that is being discussed as if I were some mere object. Tic-Tac interjected. What do you propose, computer? I've connected directly with one of the other species during my time here, an extant. They share a conscious experience very similar to mine. Would you agree to a transfer of all information that you deem vital into your own systems? Afterwards, an extant will be able to verify that I no longer possess it. Would this satisfy your requirements without forcing me to go through another complete reset? I see this as a possible alternative, but it is not my call. The board will have to... This fucking board. Why do we have to keep dealing with the middleman? I want to talk to them, get them on the line. They're the ones deciding my fate and wanting to kill my friend now. Let me speak to them myself. Human yelled, standing out of his chair and slamming his fists into the table, causing a large crack in the wood that stretched to the other end. They're listening. the commander said calmly, pressing a button on the pad attached to his wrist. The room was silent for a moment. A small crackle of sound was barely audible in the room, but was the only indication that someone was on the other end of the line. After waiting for a few more tense moments, the response came. They spoke in an indistinct voice that could have belonged to any number of species, but it was impossible to determine exactly which. "That is acceptable." And then the room was left in silence once more. "There you go, you have your answer. Now do you agree to the terms or not?" the commander asked sternly. "Yes, I just want to get the fuck out of here now, and give me a ship. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. It's the least you could do for wasting my time and also, I don't know, saving your species. We already planned on it. It would have an automatic detonation sequence installed if you went within the limits of any core-occupied worlds. We hope that isn't going to be an issue," the commander said, keeping his usual steady demeanor. "Fine, whatever you think is necessary to keep me from running off to people who are apparently even worse than you. If that's somehow possible," Human said. "We find the security of an entire collection of planets more important than the individual liberties of one war criminal. So I hope you can understand the precautions," the commander said. "Whatever, I'm done here. I'll head back to my room. Come get me when all of your affairs are in order." Human leaned down to pick up Tic Tac, but was stopped. "The computer stays here. That part of the deal is our first priority," the commander ordered. "I will be fine. I'll have them bring me to you when the transfer is complete," Tic Tac stated. Whatever emotions may have been going through the computer, they were undetectable in his voice. "Fine, if he gets back to me and anything other than this critical information is gone, the core is going to be the least of your worries. I hope the board was still listening." They were not. What a shame. And with that, Human turned and stormed out of the room.